animal sidekick. If you could have an animal sidekick that could talk, what would you pick?
That could talk. I would have to go elephant. And the caveat to that, the elephant has to be stoned.
I can actually picture that. Hello guys, and welcome to Stories, the True and the Fictional. We have a wonderful returning guest, but before we bring him in, we just want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Rebecca Cassells and the Rising Dawn series. Check it out on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, all that stuff. It is a great series. Rebecca is a good friend of ours, and we are grateful for her to be sponsoring us. But today, of course, Chad Miller, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks. Good to be back.
Now, I will say before we crack into it, I was, when preparing for you to come back on, and I accidentally typed in chadmiller.com. And it turns out there is a chadmiller.com, and he's very good at doing real estate in Florida. So I just want to make sure that's not you. You haven't got a double life going on or anything?
No, like when I type in Google, he's comes up first. So I got to beat that Chad Miller.
Well, I was going to say, what's the plan? Now that we've realized that someone's coming up first, what's the plan to get rid of them permanently?
Maybe buy up all the real estate. I don't know.
Oh,
buy him out.
It's a double win.
I can't even afford to buy myself some real estate, let alone all of the real estate in Florida.
But I had to sell a lot of books then. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe we could organize a whole lot of, seeing Chad Miller's a popular name, we'll just get all the Chad Millers to go see Chad Miller. We'll have a Chad Miller convention at Florida.
I don't know about Florida. Maybe like Fiji, like an island.
Fiji?
Nice.
All right, yeah.
It can be the
all the Chad Millers,
multiverse.
like we're island people.
There you go, the multiverses of Miller.
And then we can name it Miller Island, because that sounds pretty cool.
That'd be nice. Or we could take over the country Chad. There's a country Chad.
I like it.
It's war torn, but
whatever gets me the least jail time, I'm happy to do.
It's true.
All right. Well, because you're a returning guest, we have some wonderful new icebreakers we've come up with.
Right.
Yeah, you actually made us do work. How dare you?
Yeah. So, Ryan, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, sure. Look, okay. Yeah. Well, this one's a nice, easy one. When you were a little kid, before you dreamed of becoming an author, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I grew up in Philadelphia, and every kid in Philadelphia played basketball. So I wanted to be an NBA basketball player on the Philadelphia 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, a prerequisite of being a good basketball player, you have to be able to run and jump, and those two things I can't do. So I was defeated before I even got off my career. So.
Oh, well, I think you're old enough to, I'm assuming, to remember a player from the Utah Jazz, John Stockton. He was
of course,
tiny. Yeah. He was tiny. I mean, compared to someone like Karl Malone in the Utah Jazz, he was tiny, and he still achieved a lot. I don't remember him running.
He was small, but he could run and he could jump.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
So I remember like one time I was going to my basketball practice and I asked my dad, I'm like, hey, do you think I'm good enough to be an NBA player? And he's like, no.
At least he's honest.
He shot me down right away. My dreams are quashed from the beginning. So
at least he is honest, because you see all these people going on like these singing competitions that like they always say, oh, my mum and dad, they said I was amazing and they said that I could do this, and then they walk out and they can't carry a note, can't hit a tune. And I feel so bad for them, because their parents shouldn't be encouraging them if they've got no talent. So maybe your dad was onto something.
Yeah, he was honest. And that's when I give him my writing, I get nervous because he'll be honest with me. If I write something that's terrible, he'll tell me. So he's a pretty good judge.
Yeah. Well, speaking of judges, animal sidekick. If you could have an animal sidekick that could talk, what would you pick?
That could talk. I would have to go elephant. And the caveat to that, the elephant has to be stoned.
I can actually picture that.
How cool would that be? I mean, who doesn't want a stone elephant to be with them? I mean, you have to feed them though. That would be the hard part, is feeding them.
Well,
it's a lot of Doritos.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be a pet. It can just be an elephant that rocks up from time to time, you know?
Or it could be Babar.
That's
It could be Babar, the king of the cartoon elephant.
Babar.
Yeah, Babar.
Yeah, but was Babar stoned though? I mean, I don't know if he got high.
Look, I think he did. Also, if you've seen some of the lady elephants he had around, I'm pretty sure he did. He did. Just off camera.
Maybe we'll name him Babar. I mean, even if it was like Snuffleupagus, I'd be good with that too.
Oh, Snuffleupagus, he always looked high. Always.
Oh, he's totally high. The droopy eyelids.
Well, didn't that
You know he hit the bong. You know he did.
I mean, that nose could just get a contact high from someone around the corner, you know? So
True.
You never look at Sesame Street again like the same way after listening to this episode. So,
Oh, then I did my job well.
yes, you definitely did. You definitely did. Okay. This next one, I like it. I like the way you've worded this, Jamie. Covers everyone. So, Chad, you're king, queen, supreme leader, or president for a day. What do you do?
What do I do? First thing I do is I bring back Roe, because that was some bullshit. So I'll bring that back. What else? In my previous couple questions on last episode, one of my biggest hates was racism. Even though you can't take racism away because people are always going to be assholes, you can quell institutional racism. So I would try my best to limit that as best as I could. What else? Taco Tuesdays is always good. We could do that.
Yeah.
And I'd bring back the capital from DC. I mean, I love DC. Nothing wrong with DC. Love it there. Great city. But I bring it back to Philadelphia because it was the first capital. There was nothing wrong with it. Bring it back.
Yeah.
I like how you didn't do the traditional one, whereas I know one of our friends, Chris, if we asked him this question, he would say simply, I'd make myself president king for the rest of my life. And, you know,
that's a lot of pressure, though. I don't know. I'm good with terms.
You took more of an approach, well, you know what? I'm going to get rid of as many problems as I can in a day. And I like that.
No, but with our friend Chris, like he has been quoted saying that he loves George Washington because he was the only one to relinquish, willingly relinquish power.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the first time, pretty much. I mean, that was huge because you know. Look at today. Our last one didn't want to relinquish power, so take a lesson from Washington.
Yeah. Well, just random question: who is your favorite president? Just curious.
Ever? I mean, it's cliche, but Lincoln was pretty badass.
Yeah.
I mean, not only did he, that he got rid of slavery. I mean, especially look at nowadays. Nowadays, you choose your cabinet is you choose all yes men. Yeah. His cabinet was filled of his biggest rival was in this cabinet, so he wanted a differing opinion in the room, so to gather that different point of view, and that's gone nowadays. I mean, you don't even make deals across the aisle anymore. So I mean, I think that was a pretty good, and he's a great storyteller. So I do like Lincoln. Maybe Martin Van Buren because he had cool sideburns, but I don't know much about him. Yeah.
But Abraham used to kill vampires, right? Didn't he?
I was about to say that. You stole my line. I was thinking,
it sounded like a terrible movie, and it wasn't a great movie. I'm not going to say it was great.
Look, it wasn't terrible.
I thought it was going to be horrible, and it wasn't.
Yeah, well, it was fun. It was fun. Like you're never supposed to take it seriously. But
no.
It's on my list. I still haven't seen it yet.
I've seen the other one, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. That's pretty funny. Like my family. That one. My family love Pride and Prejudice, and every time they bring it up, and I go, "And zombies?"
Yeah,
and they go, "No." I go, "But it's got Matt Smith in it." And they go, "It's not bad." But
what? So, Chad, what story would you like to see adapted into a film? And if you want some bonus points, because we all know the points matter in this game, you can pick a director and leading actor or actress.
Okay. I would love to say Count in Monte Cristo, but that's been done before, even though the one I saw I didn't like that much. But I'm going to go a different route. I love Kurt Vonnegut. He's one of my favorite authors. And I don't know if anyone's ever done any of these books, maybe Slaughterhouse-Five. But right now I'm reading one of his books, Deadeye Dick. and I would like to see that in the film. And the reason being is the director. I think one director could only accomplish it, and that's Terry Gilliam. The guy did what did he do? He did the 12 Monkeys and did Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So I think he could pull it off. Cool. And so the lead character, he's this apathetic. He's a pharmacist. He's a writer, just like me. But he also he's called Deadeye Dick because one day he went up into his father's study, grabbed the gun and just shot it into the air, and it accidentally killed someone.
Oh wow!
So he's this apathetic. It's almost like French existentialism. So the character reminds me like someone out of Camus, The Stranger. So I think Robert Pattinson would play it pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever saw The Lighthouse, but he was pretty surprisingly awesome in that movie. So I think he would play a brooding, apathetic type character. His father is this loaded, artistic guy who's washed up. So I think Val Kilmer would be good for that role.
Yep.
His mom, I would just say Kathy Bates, because Kathy Bates needs to be in every movie. She's awesome.
Mhm.
And his brother is this tall, lanky white guy with a deep baritone voice. So the only one, he's not an actor, but the only person that comes to mind is Rick Astley. So put him in there.
Cool. I dig it. All right. So Elon Musk has perfected his electric time machine and has put you in charge in organizing a dinner party of historical figures. Who's on the guest list? And you got bonus points if you have a bit of a description about what your party's going to be, what's on the menu, if there's any entertainment, that sort of thing.
Okay. Who will be there? David Bowie, because David Bowie is badass. He has to be there. One of my favorite authors, I got to put Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
I would put Vincent Van Gogh, because he's a great artist and interesting. I would like to talk to him. And lastly, Caligula. I got to put a tyrant in there.
Excellent.
Random.
That'd be a very interesting party.
I think so. It'd be, the conversation would be dark. We need to lighten it up a little bit, but
yeah. Well, you never know that you might bring out the optimism in them, or
If I'm the optimistic, oh God, we're in trouble.
It'd be very dark and very loud because if Van Gogh's only got one ear, so you need to make sure you speak up so that he could hear it.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. What would it be on the menu? I don't know. I would start off with borscht. I heard Caligula likes borscht, and it's in honor of our Ukrainian brothers and sisters. Lamb chops for our main meal, and maybe a cheesecake for dessert. I don't know. Who doesn't like cheesecake?
Me.
You don't like cheesecake?
No, it's not the fact that I don't like it. It's the fact that it doesn't agree with me.
Okay. It's one of those things. So, so I don't drink milk in my coffee just because of milk. Turns my stomach, so I get it.
Cool. Well, thanks for answering those, Chad.
And for being our test subject on the new.
Yes, you're the very first one.
All right. I hope I did well.
Yeah. We'll find out when we get all our comments and likes. So you've got a book just about to come out, or maybe it's out when this airs, The Prisoner of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. So tell us, what's the premise? What's the plot? What's it about?
What's the premise? I mean, it's basically about fear, conquering our fear, recognizing our fear, and confronting it. So the main character, his biggest fear is death. He keeps him up at night. And the way he tries to deal with it is his profession. So he tries to solve mysteries that fall through the cracks of the police, more like obscure mysteries, things that he could prove, like the devil is real, or God is real, or that ghosts exist. So if those things exist, that means that there is an afterlife, and that his biggest fear is not. But basically, it's based out of the 20th century, so it's like old Victorian, and it's kind of a mix between Dracula and Sherlock Holmes. So you have the duo of like Holmes type character and Watson, even though they're very different, and they're kind of thrown into this mystical universe, but it's grounded in reality. So you have to discover if it's a true monster or if it's, if his biggest fear is a reality or if it's false. So that's kind of the
When's
premise of the book.
when's the Netflix series coming out? Because it sounds like it could be, you know.
I hope soon. That'd be amazing. 2023. I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. So what inspired you to write it?
What inspired me to write it is it began from a short story I wrote called Mother Hen.
Mhm.
And the premise of that short story was there's so many monster stories. There's The Exorcist, where the little girl is possessed and she's the focal point. She's the evil one, or the evil within her. But I took it from a different approach, whereas the caretaker of that person. So there is a girl in mind that's the focal point of this first book. And you don't view her as the evil one. It's the mom taking care of her because she's forced to make some immoral choices to care for that person. So the mother of the afflicted is more the villain than the monster itself. So that's where it kind of stemmed from. And then, the story grew from there.
Cool.
Why don't you go through explaining the writing process of this? Like how do you get your headspace into writing something of this genre, and do you have a process? Do you have a ritual that you need to go into to get into these dark places before you can put it to paper?
Not necessarily a ritual to get into dark places. I usually write at night, and that's basically out of need. I work full time. I'm a single dad, so I write when everyone's asleep. So it works real well with horror. So that kind of gets me in it's dark, it's quiet, so it's kind of spooky sometimes. So it kind of gets me into that mood. But my actual nuts and bolts writing process is it's hard getting the first word on the page. So I just get it out, even though it's probably shit the first time you put it on there. Just get it on the page, and then before I start my next session, so I might write 500 to 600 words at a time. Next time I write my next section, I edit it for grammar and all that stuff. And then I really reread what I wrote before. And then I kind of iron out the kinks.
Okay. So it's basically, at least you've got something there, because as long as something is on the page, you can always, work on that, or you can always edit that and go, you know what, this part of it's a good idea, and then sort of just mold it all together. Is that what you're saying?
Right, exactly, like molding. Like it's kind of like putting clay on the potter's wheel.
Yeah.
You don't put the clay on the potter's wheel, there's nothing to work with. But once you get it on there, then you can kind of shift it and mold it the way you want it.
No, that makes perfect sense. Excellent. And what about when you're creating your characters? Do you develop them as you go, or will you just go, okay, this is the character, and base a story around that?
I had my major plot points. So when I first started it, I knew the beginning, and I knew where I wanted it to end, and I knew like some major plot twists and things like that. But everything in the middle, no, I leave it open. That's why I don't work well with outlines. I don't like to box myself in. So I'll create that character, and they're living, breathing things. So when I sit down and write, sometimes I don't know where I'm going to go, and let the character lead me rather than me lead the character. And that's one of the fun parts of writing for me, is the unexpected. And a lot of times to see where sometimes I'm not. I might have the wheel, but the wheel turns in different directions where I don't expect.
Yeah. It's like that Michael Scott from The Office, where he says, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going.
All the time, like right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So on your characters, like, is there a favorite one in this book that you loved, or that you were surprised by, which you created and then went, whoa, I really like this character?
Yeah, for me, the two main characters were the hardest to write. Just because I didn't want to fit them into tropes or be like cliches, because they're going to think like they're two mystery solvers. I love Sherlock Holmes, I love Watson, but I don't want to rewrite something that's already written. It's hard to try to stay away from that. But one of my favorite characters is the mother of the afflicted. Even though she has a minor role in this, she had a major role in this story that I wrote. But in the book, she's a minor role. But she was very fun to write because she went from protector of the mother of the afflicted to maybe slowly going insane, and it was fun to write. It's a fun character. But I really liked one of the side characters, the niece of the main characters, and she is enthralled of what the two main characters do, solving mysteries, and she tries to butt herself into their business, and she begins to take a major role in the mystery solving because she's so smart and so innovative and sees things from another perspective. So they kind of slowly bring her into the fold reluctantly because of her age, and she also breaks gender gaps because back in that time, women didn't really have that much power. But she really takes on a powerful role in the book and kind of breaks those barriers. So I did enjoy writing her.
Cool.
Well, in staying with the characters, and this is a good way to lead into the next question when you were talking about the niece. So do you find that in this book there's some characters that you really enjoyed working with and that you really enjoyed creating that you're going to expand on their stories maybe in a future book and maybe expand their worlds to delve into a different side of things?
Absolutely. I have a couple things in mind. One of the books I'm going to work on, I actually this summer did a little research. I went to stayed overnight at the Lizzie Borden house.
Oh,
I don't know if you
awesome.
The axe murder, and it's unsolvable that she really did it, but she did it. Absolutely. So I stayed overnight at her house, and I wanted to write a loose alliteration of that story because there's so many great characters in that story.
Yeah.
Where I'm gonna, I'm not gonna tell it like the way it happened. I'm gonna take my creative control and just use it as a loose background. But since it is a mystery, I'm going to bring these characters back in, even though they're not going to be the main focus, be brought back in. It's actually going to happen before this particular story took place, so I'll bring them back as well. And there's so many spin-offs and so many ideas of characters I like that maybe have gone away in this book, but I could bring back as a going back in time and back in history and trying to bring him back to life.
And that's always a good thing because, if you ever want to take a break from the main story, you've got these amazing characters that you can go, let's go and give a backstory and let's take a sort of a jump back in time, like you said, and explore that world for a little while. And then you come back to your main series as well. Or as you said, with, your take on the Lizzie Borden thing, you can take your characters and put them in that situation to show how they would react to something that actually exists in this world.
Right. And one of my little things that I'm trying to do with each book, even though some books might be completely different, completely be in different worlds, I want to try to connect them in some loose way. So for example, right now, my current work in progress, I'm writing 3 serials of novellas, and it's called Cerebus. And loosely, it's like a Greek mythology mixed with spaghetti western. So it's a completely different world than this horror book, completely different characters. But the prologue to this book is written by one of the characters in the last book. So the way I told Prisoner of Fear, the way it's written in the epistolary style, which is a series of letters, diary entries, and things like that. So the first prologue of this current work in progress, even though the rest of the book's not told that way, is a diary entry of one of the characters in the book.
There you go.
That's awesome.
I love it.
It's kind of like a bridge.
I love it when things like that happen. I like when you can sort of it's not necessarily the same story, but there's little things like that you can realize that these stories take place in the same universe, and that kind of thing. They don't have to saturate each other, but just a little bit. It's kind of a little bit of a nod to your, you know, your loyal readers that have read the books that have come before, to go, oh yeah, you know, hold on, this is in this. I love things like that. Like, they're my favorite series of books, and I think that's a really good.
It also, at least for me, tries to not alienate if I want to go in, alienate my readers if I want to go in a different direction. So right now, The Prisoner of Fear is pretty much straight up horror mystery type book. The next book, as I explained, or the next series of novellas, it's not a horror book. It's more, you know, definitely weirder. But it kind of ties that back in, and so it'll remind the reader, you know, I'm still the same author, even though I'm going in a different direction, and the characters are relatable and related.
Yeah.
Well, the big question, when's it out? Because I want it now.
The Prisoner of Fear, it's coming out a week from tomorrow, so October 1st.
This actually may be out on release day.
A week from tomorrow. So
that'd be amazing.
Well, very, very close.
1st or 2nd of August, depending on what day it is over there, chat.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, it's coming up real. I mean, it's been in production. I finished it in, I want to say 2019, 2020, and I signed with the publisher late 2020. So since I've been working with the publisher, it's been about almost the full year in pre-production. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm excited.
So when it comes out, so when someone picks it up and reads it, like, what's the feeling that you want to leave them with? What do you want to get through to them with this book?
As far as feeling, I don't want to give the person nightmares. I don't want them to fall asleep. So I want them to think about it so much that they can't fall asleep. So, but other than that, I just want them. It's not, you know, it is horror, but it's more a cerebral horror. So it's not like a slasher. There's not a lot of gore in it. There's not like the jump scares or things like that. But it's more cerebral. So it's not more. I want them to think about the idea rather than the image.
Yeah. Excellent. Can you pre-order it? Can you, like, or is it just going to drop on release date and that's when you can get it?
I think the publishers plan to have like a couple days where you can pre-order it.
Awesome.
It's not on Amazon yet. I checked today; it's not there yet. But probably in the next couple of days, it should be able.
Yeah, because I checked while we were talking on Amazon, because I'm like, I want this now. But yeah, it's not up yet, but I'll be checking every day. And what we'll do as well, we will let our listeners know once the pre-order goes up as well. So we'll send out a short post or something, Instagram. I'm sure Jamie will be able to do that. And
what did drop today on my publisher's website? It's a little premature maybe, but it's cool. It's a definite ego boost. She made merch of the cover, so you get like T-shirts and blankets and stuff like that with the cover of the book on it on the publisher's website.
That's the cover with the screamy face, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It freaked me out a little bit. I'm just going to say that, you know. So it's well, like, so where'd you get that design from? Like,
it's interesting. It's actually the second cover. So the last time I was on this podcast, I was talking about my collection of short stories. It's a book called The Void.
Yep. And
that cover is a good learning experience. It wasn't really, we didn't promote it that much. It was pretty much to dip our toes in the water and to get this experience before releasing this one, because this is for me, the important one.
Yeah.
She made, or the publisher made that cover using a program called Canva.
All right,
which is you purchase the program and then you have all these images available and you kind of piece them together yourself.
Yeah.
So that book was doing okay. I mean, it's a collection of short stories. It was doing all right. And then like all of a sudden it jumped up. It like didn't skyrocket, but it in its category, horror short stories, it made top 100 in Amazon, which was like huge for me. And I was at 98, and at 97 was Stephen King. So I screenshotted that, and I could die happy forever, because that was freaking amazing.
Wow.
But that day, that same day, Amazon, I got a call from the publisher. Amazon took it down because someone claimed that we stole the cover. So Canva, even though Canva owns the right to the image, but other people who subscribe to Canva can use it. So I guess someone used that same image, thought we stole it, and it was a whole thing. So this one, we created it with an AI program. So it's completely unique. No one else can use it. It's one of its own. And I think it turned out great.
Yeah, it's a great cover. It definitely stood out. Well, any last things you want to say? Anything you want to plug? Does your backseat passenger want to give a shout out?
This is my my listener. She's my biggest critic. She's my biggest fan too. That's my daughter Helena. My other daughter had a school dance. That's why I'm in this car. But that's the life of a full-time dad, full-time pharmacist, and a full-time writer. So I go where I'm needed. But the plugs, just go to chadmiller.author.com. That has all my publications. Or also go to hearourvoicellc.com. That has all the publications from my publisher and also the merch I was talking about.
Yeah.
But it should be available on Amazon. The Void is still out there with a new cover. We had to design a new cover for that. That's up in there if you want to check it out. We're trying to make it free on Kindle for everyone in the next couple of weeks. So if you want a free read to get a taste of my work, look out for that too.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Chad.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
We'll plug everything. As soon as the book comes out as well, we'll post a link on our Instagram, Facebook, everything we have. And yeah, make sure you sell lots and lots and lots of copies if we can.
All right, then we'll have that meeting in Fiji with all the Chads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, definitely.
Multiverse of Miller or the Conventions of Chad, either way.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are on the board of directors, so you're welcome too.
Cool, awesome. Thanks again.
You enjoy your evening, and thanks for coming back on.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, mate.